For decades, the message was clear and unwavering. Dietary fat is the enemy of a healthy heart and stable circulation. Yet the latest wave of rigorous research has flipped that narrative entirely on its head. It turns out that a specific family of lipids doesn't gum up the works. Instead, they actively help your vascular highways widen and ease. We are talking specifically about omega-3 fatty acids. These are not simply fuel to be burned off. They are architectural components, weaving themselves into the very walls of the cells that line your arteries and veins. From that strategic position, they orchestrate a symphony of functions that govern internal pressure, including the management of swelling, the ease of blood movement, and the pliability of the arterial walls. When this internal machinery hums along smoothly, crimson fluid travels with minimal friction. When the gears grind, the force against those walls starts to climb. That provokes a crucial inquiry. Precisely how do these fats manipulate the pressure gauge within the human vessel network? Throughout this presentation, we will dismantle the genuine physiology of omega-3s, illustrate the interplay with vascular structure, and identify which provisions deliver the most potent punch. Grasping this connection empowers you to discern why a certain class of fats guards the cardiac pump rather than assaulting it. Let us first establish a foundational definition of what these molecules even are. The label omega-3 is plastered across supplement shelves and snack packaging, yet few pause to consider what transpires once swallowed. They belong to a class called polyunsaturated fats, and crucially, your internal factory cannot manufacture them. You must import them via diet. They differ from mere caloric fillers. They are structural units inserted into the membranes of trillions of individual cells. This includes the delicate inner lining known as the endothelium, the master regulator of vascular tone. With ample supply, these cellular barriers stay supple and alert. Supple vessel walls are the foundation of effortless flow. This pliability facilitates seamless chatter between arteries, circulating messengers, and the brain. A shortage causes those signals to falter and grow static. There are three dominant variants found in human sustenance. First, EPA, or eicosapentaenoic acid. It concentrates in cold water swimmers and seafood, reigning over the control of inflammatory cascades and heart rhythm. Second, DHA, or docosahexaenoic acid. It likewise abounds in marine harvests and fortifies the architecture of the brain, retina, and vessel linings. Third, ALA, or alpha-linolenic acid. This variant resides in terrestrial flora. Think flax, chia, walnuts, and select pressed oils. The liver possesses the capacity to morph ALA into the more active EPA and DHA forms, though this transformation is notoriously inefficient. Consequently, oceanic sources tend to offer the most non-stop expressway to vascular protection. What is the under-the-skin reality? Omega-3 fats are embedded into the outer shells of your cells. These shells serve as discerning gates, allowing communication and response. When saturated with these beneficial lipids, the gates swing open fluidly, permitting arteries to dilate on command. Deprivation stiffens these gates, altering how vessels react to tension and internal irritation. Safety note: these nutrients are largely advantageous for grown individuals, specifically those wrestling with elevated numbers or lipid imbalances. However, if you are on anticoagulant therapy or facing a surgical procedure, a conversation with your clinician regarding concentrated doses is non-negotiable. Sourcing these elements from actual fish remains the gold standard for safety and synergy. From a research vantage point, expansive epidemiological tracking consistently links high dietary omega-3 consumption with reduced cardiac event rates and healthier vascular biomarkers. The prevailing theory rests on structural integration. These fats physically alter the composition and signaling capacity of the arterial network. They are not passive calories. They are active regulators of pressure and pulse. Let us transition to the mechanics of arterial expansion. One of the chief culprits behind sustained high pressure isn't the volume of blood ejected by the pump, but the ease with which that volume navigates the pipe system. Healthy conduits possess a rubber band quality. With each cardiac contraction, they stretch outward to greet the incoming surge. This distension absorbs the shock wave, enabling serene flow. When stiffening sets in, that elasticity vanishes. The cardiac muscle strains against unyielding tubes. Over the arc of years, this heightened opposition forces the numbers upward. Omega-3 fats intervene here with precision, bolstering the performance of the endothelium. This singular layer of pavement cells acts as the command bunker. When it operates correctly, it dispatches chemical couriers instructing the encircling smooth muscle to stand down. The most celebrated of these couriers is nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a molecular messenger whispering for expansion. It signals vessels to widen marginally, allowing the current to slip past unimpeded. Omega-3s appear to safeguard this delicate process by enhancing the bunker's efficiency and calming oxidative turmoil within the wall. When these lipids are swapped into the membrane of the vessel cell, they increase pliability, sharpening the cell's ability to perceive and obey the command to dilate. They also counteract oxidative rust, which otherwise sabotages the nitric oxide broadcast. By lifting this corrosive burden, the capacity to relax is conserved. Safety perspective. Reclaiming vascular springiness is particularly urgent past the half-century mark. Aging naturally siphons elasticity from the pipes. Habits like poor eating, inhaling smoke, and smoldering internal fires hasten this timeline. Introducing omega-3 provisions can offset some of this rigidity. Those on thinning agents must proceed with caution regarding high-potency extracts. Clinical investigations validate that omega-3 intake enhances endothelial performance and yields a gentle downward nudge on pressure readings. The mechanism is largely attributed to superior nitric oxide transmission and tamed vascular swelling. These fats keep the plumbing responsive, permitting blood to travel with diminished drag. Yet maintaining pliability solves only one piece of the puzzle. The hidden accelerant lurking in the shadows is low-grade, persistent inflammation. Let us explore that inflammatory nexus. Elevated pressure is often framed as a matter of the heart or the vessels, but a stealthy operator works behind the curtain in many circulatory disorders. Unresolved inflammation. Inflammatory response is a natural protective blaze. In bursts, it mends wounds and repels invaders. But when the embers never die out, they singe the lining of the arteries. Inflammatory signals tighten the vessels and dull their reflexes. This breeds stiffness and escalating opposition to flow. Omega-3s are pivotal here because they act as a counterbalance to a modern dietary skew. Today's standard intake is saturated with omega-6 lipids, abundant in refined seed oils and shelf-stable goods. These omega-6 fats are not inherently villainous, but without sufficient omega-3 chaperones, the body tilts toward generating pro-inflammatory dispatches. Omega-3s restore equilibrium by producing alternate messengers that are less incendiary and more sheltering for the arterial wall. They pacify immune skirmishes inside the vessel lining and ease chafing. On a microscopic level, these fats influence the synthesis of local hormones called prostaglandins and cytokines. Some of these agents stoke the fire and constrict the pipes. Others cool the embers and permit healing. Omega-3s nudge the scale toward the protective, restorative side. This shift diminishes wall friction, boosts endothelial agility, and primes the arteries to yawn open when demand spikes. With time, this placid vascular climate nurtures steadier flow and more consistent numbers. Reducing this background simmer is doubly critical for those managing metabolic syndrome, sugar dysregulation, or excess weight, as these states are almost universally paired with invisible systemic flames. Elevating omega-3 consumption via fatty swimmers helps douse these fires naturally. As before, high-dose isolates require a clinician's green light. When blood thinners are in the mix, the academic consensus is robust. Omega-3s lower bloodstream markers of inflammation, and lower inflammation correlates with better arterial behavior and healthier pressure profiles. These fats help soothe the internal storm, curating an atmosphere where relaxation and stability can thrive. Next, we look at the brain-body connection. The nervous system is the silent puppeteer of blood pressure, constantly yanking strings that tell the heart to race or rest. One of the most potent regulators is the autonomic system, a network that functions beneath conscious awareness. It features two opposing divisions. The sympathetic arm readies the chassis for action, revving the engine, cinching the lines, and spiking the gauge in response to duress. The parasympathetic arm is the brake. It encourages restoration, slows the tempo, and permits the pipes to loosen. When the sympathetic signal becomes deafening due to anxiety, fitful slumber, or chronic irritation, vessels stay clamped in a semi-permanent clench. Omega-3s seem to dial down the volume on this overactive alarm system. How? They are vital constituents of the membranes encasing every nerve cell in the skull and spine. Proper membrane fluidity is essential for crisp, efficient electrical transmission. With adequate reserves, the neurons fire with precision, fostering harmony between the gas pedal and the brake. Some data implies omega-3s can tamp down the excessive sympathetic roar, thereby allowing the vascular walls to breathe a sigh of relief. This improved signaling extends to the modulation of the beat-to-beat interval, a metric known as heart rate variability. High variability is a hallmark of a flexible, resilient nervous system capable of navigating stress without blowing a gasket. This effect is especially salubrious for those whose pressure surges in lockstep with life's tense moments. Adults with sustained hypertension often exist in a state of perpetual sympathetic overdrive, which keeps their pipes in a vice grip. Weaving omega-3 rich items into the daily menu can quiet that static. Naturally, those on rhythm-altering drugs or anticoagulants should seek professional counsel before embarking on heavy supplementation. Peer-reviewed examinations of omega-3 consumption reveal tangible improvements in markers of autonomic poise, including stress hormone normalization and better interval variability. These shifts likely underpin the subtle yet significant reductions in pressure seen in trials. By supporting the nervous system's ability to release the brake, these fats contribute to a more tranquil internal atmosphere. Now, we shift our focus to the plate. Where exactly do we find these elusive lipids? While capsules fill pharmacy shelves, the most biologically coherent and effective delivery system remains intact, unprocessed fare. Whole provisions offer omega-3s in their native matrix, bundled with cofactors like selenium, protein, and vitamin D that synergistically bolster cardiovascular integrity. For the pressure-conscious individual, weaving these items into daily fare gradually recalibrates the body's lipid balance sheet. This equilibrium is paramount because the average Western plate is lopsided, heavy on omega-6 and starved of omega-3. Redressing this ratio alone can yield meaningful vascular dividends. The gold standard repositories of performed EPA and DHA are the oily, cold water swimmers. Examples include the orange-fleshed salmon, the humble sardine, the sleek mackerel, the briny anchovy, the rainbow trout, and the silver herring. These creatures amass omega-3 from marine microalgae, concentrating it in their flesh and fat. Aiming for 2 to 3 palm-sized portions weekly provides a robust, therapeutic supply of these long-chain guardians. The botanical kingdom also contributes, but largely in the form of ALA. Good sources include milled flaxseed, chia gel, raw walnuts, hemp hearts, and canola oil. These are wholesome and healthful, but recall the conversion bottleneck. The human engine is not particularly adept at transforming ALA into the vascular active forms EPA and DHA. Hence, the marine route is the more direct and powerful avenue for pressure management. What transpires internally with regular consumption? These fats are methodically woven into the fabric of your cells over weeks and months. This gradual remodeling alters the chemical signals emitted by immune sentinels, nerve fibers, and vessel linings. The shift toward a less agitated, more relaxed cellular conversation explains why the cardiovascular perks of omega-3 accrue slowly but steadily with fidelity. Safety and sourcing are key. Most adults can safely ramp up intake from food. Those gestating, allergic to marine life, or on blood thinners should navigate dietary overhauls with professional insight. Opting for smaller, shorter-lived species can also mitigate concerns regarding heavy metal accumulation. Population data underscores this. Communities with high fish consumption exhibit lower incidences of heart failure and cleaner vascular profiles. The synergy of EPA and DHA on swelling, lipid traffic, and vessel tone is the driving force. This brings us to the bottle on the shelf. Do those amber capsules actually deliver on the promise of pressure reduction? Fish oil extracts rank among the globe's most consumed dietary adjuncts, yet uncertainty lingers. Does the condensed oil translate to meaningful gauge movement? Not every individual savors seafood or has access to pristine, fresh catch. For this demographic, concentrated pills appear as a sensible bridge. These soft gels house potent doses of EPA and DHA. Taken with regularity, they can elevate bloodstream concentrations of these vital lipids. However, they are not alchemical panaceas. Their influence on pressure is typically gentle rather than dramatic, and their efficacy is amplified when layered upon a foundation of sound lifestyle choices. The proposed mechanisms mirror those discussed earlier. They foster better endothelial signaling, dial down vascular irritation, sustain nitric oxide availability, and temper the overactive nervous system. The cumulative result is a marginally looser, more forgiving arterial tree, which lowers resistance and yields small, consistent drops in both upper and lower pressure readings. After you swallow the capsule, the lipids are dismantled in the gut and ferried through the lymph and blood. Over time, they are embedded into the architecture of cells throughout the body, vessel walls, white blood cells, neurons. As this architectural renovation progresses, the internal chemistry pivots toward producing fewer alarm signals and more calming, restorative ones. This is not an overnight fix. The benefits of supplementation manifest over the span of weeks to months as cell populations turn over. Supplements can be a prudent addition for those who rarely consume fish, those battling stubbornly high triglycerides, or those seeking an extra layer of vascular insurance. Yet, caution is warranted. Elevated dosages thin the blood, escalating bleeding risks, particularly when paired with pharmaceuticals like warfarin or high-dose aspirin. Any foray into high-potency dosing should be a joint decision with a healthcare navigator. Meta-analyses of clinical trials confirm that supplementation yields modest but statistically significant reductions in both systolic and diastolic numbers, especially among those already in the hypertensive range. The observed improvements stem from the trinity of better endothelial mechanics, cooler inflammation, and optimized lipid balance. Capsules offer a valuable assist when diet falls short, but they operate best as a wingman to real food, not as its replacement. As we draw to a close, let us synthesize the narrative. For an extended epoch, fat was maligned as the saboteur of cardiac wellness. Yet the evolving scientific story reveals a more nuanced plot. Certain lipids, omega-3s chief among them, are indispensable allies in the quest for serene circulation. They exert their gentle influence over pressure via a web of interconnected pathways. They coax blood vessels to remain lithe and responsive. They sustain the vital broadcast of nitric oxide. They douse the embers of chronic inflammation. And they harmonize the discordant signals of a jangled nervous system. Harmony within the vessel walls translates to calm within the pulse. The most dependable and nourishing path to reaping these rewards is the consistent inclusion of omega-3 dense whole foods, with a special emphasis on fatty swimmers like salmon, sardine, and mackerel. The flora of the field, flax and walnut, make worthy contributions, though the marine supply chain offers the most potent, unadulterated EPA and DHA payload. Concentrated extracts can fill the gaps when the catch of the day is out of reach, but they achieve their zenith only when partnered with a lifestyle that embraces wholesome nutrition, regular movement, and appropriate medical oversight. Regulating pressure is seldom the result of a singular magic bullet or a drastic upheaval. It is the quiet, persistent support of the body's innate regulatory systems across the long arc of time. If this deep dive into the physiology of flow proved illuminating, please extend a moment to engage with the thumbs up icon. This simple action signals to the platform that the knowledge within these winds of thought is worthy of a wider horizon, and I am sincerely grateful for that signal. And while your cursor lingers, I invite you to secure your place among the Winds of Thought Fellowship by clicking subscribe. Our library is rich with evidence-rooted explorations of circulation, sustenance, and the quiet science of well-being. And should there be a loved one in your orbit striving to support their vascular health through natural means, do pass this resource along to them. Thank you for remaining engaged all the way to the closing frame. Thank you for investing this precious slice of your day in understanding the remarkable, unseen architecture of your own internal rivers.